Hi, Julian. Good to have you back. Last year, we predicted the shift. This year, we're navigating the reality. One of those being the explosive rise in data center-driven demand. So coming into 2026, what new emerging themes do you believe will shape the commodity landscape?
Quince, it's good to be back. And as you said, data-driven demand is going to be that new emerging theme. So I think we're expecting a lot of the continuation of that climate transition, electrification theme, moving over from combustion engines to battery electric vehicles, improving the transmission infrastructure, going to renewable energy supply, and that will continue. But this wildcard feature has been the data centers. So if you look at the US, everyone's expecting that 2025 will be another year of US exceptionalism in terms of GDP growth. And that's largely driven by the spend on AI and data centers. If you strip that out, there would have been a mediocre year to perhaps recessionary. And so you can see the kind of impact on the economy is being had by data centers.
Interesting. Where does the power come from? Or where do you anticipate the power to come from to energize this next wave of AI-specific data center builds?
Well, that's the trillion-dollar question, Quince. So it's going to be pretty much all and any. You can't really be picky about the data center power supply because there is that level of demand and the lead time for utility scale power is just so long. So across the board, from nuclear through to renewables, through to fossil fuels, there's going to be build in power generation to feed these chips.
And beyond being power intensive, the physical requirements of these AI specific data centers, how are those going to influence commodity markets?
So I think that a lot of people don't appreciate how much of the critical mineral complex goes into the components of these data centers. So aside from steel and concrete, which is pretty self-explanatory, you've got a lot of aluminium and copper for racking and cabling, but then you've got a whole suite of these more exotic type of minerals, your rare earths and things you need to go to the dictionary to find out more about. Bring it even closer to home, a lot of platinum group metals go into the memory chips and the CPUs that allow ChatGPT to answer your questions.
Like the touch on ChatGPT. So how much additional commodities demand might this unlock?
I think that it's important not to overstate and say that this is going to double or treble global commodity demand. But where I think this is important is a little bit more subtle a point in that at the moment, the market is fairly finely balanced in supply and demand. Even over December, we saw this massive run up in commodity prices due to stockpiling and potential tariffs. But that indicates that there's not a lot of excess supply floating out there. Add in this excess demand from the data centers, and I think you've got this recipe for quite big commodity price spikes.
And to bring it back home as RMB, how are we positioning ourselves in a world where AI, energy systems, and critical minerals intersect?
So we've been tilting our business towards the critical minerals production for quite some time, and I think we're going to double down on that. So we see Africa as having a key role to play in supplying critical minerals, and not just to any one country in particular, but to supply that global ecosystem for a better future. And we can help unlock that supply and help companies grow.